What's up, fellow movie buffs and film connoisseurs? It's your self-proclaimed cinema shogun here, and it's a rather slow news day. So I'm just sitting here going over a lot of information about this case, trying to see if there's something I glanced over or something I missed. And I came across this interesting CNN article where the spokesperson for the Northport Police Department claims to CNN that Brian Laundrie was being surveyed before he went missing. So apparently, from what this guy is saying, they were already surveying Brian Laundrie well before he took off running. But I kind of find that hard to believe, seeing as he supposedly went missing from his house. And this just brings me back to the most frustrating part about this case, is the fact that we can't take anything anyone says at face value. Which is why we're here right now. Because we can't trust the professionals. We can't trust the people whose job it is to do these things. And the reason why a lot of this case is such a mystery is because we don't know what to believe. I mean, at the beginning, they said they had eyes on Brian Laundrie and they knew where he was, and we know that that's not true now. But yet here he is saying that they had Brian Laundrie under surveillance. Brian Laundrie was already being watched. But see, that's a very important piece of information. Because if they actually had eyes on Brian, and they were actually watching his house and watching his every move, and he somehow went missing, then that lets us know that he escaped a different way than what maybe we think he did. But see, we don't really know if they ever saw Brian or talked to Brian, or if they were really surveying Brian. I mean, this is what he says. But this is the same police department that said they knew where Brian Laundrie was before he went missing. So that's why we keep talking about this case. That's why all of us remain frustrated and want answers. Because we're not getting answers from the professionals. We're getting unclear answers. We're getting the runaround. I mean, if you will, we're getting the runaround here. Because if we knew for a fact that they were really surveying Brian Laundrie and they really saw him at, up until a certain date, then that changes everything. Then we could work off of a whole another set of rules here. We're all operating under the set of rules that, hey, Brian could have went missing almost at any point after that trip, that camping trip that he took with his family. But if he was really under surveillance and they were really watching him up until a certain date, then we would be operating under a different set of rules. Like, okay, well, if they had him under surveillance up until a certain date, then obviously he couldn't have made it this far. Obviously, his parents didn't drive him anywhere. He had to kind of do it on his own. If they actually had him under surveillance, then this kind of makes that story that the neighbor had, they saw Brian running and escaping out of his backyard, more believable. And if that's the case, then I understand why they're still at the Carlton Reserve. Because if that's the case, I don't believe Brian made it as far as maybe we think. But if it's not the case, if this is just another lie told by the Northport Police Department, that Brian was under surveillance, and they knew where Brian was up to a certain date, then Brian could be anywhere right now. Brian would have had weeks to escape. So I find this interesting that he says that Brian was under surveillance. Because if it's true, then this changes everything. It changes all of the theories. And we could all be working under a different set of rules, and we could be, at the very least, dismissing a lot of the other stuff that's going on behind this case and focusing more on the situation as if Brian didn't have as much time as we think he did to get away. But like I said, everything about this case is unclear. So we have to operate from two different perspectives. That, hey, for one, maybe this police officer is telling the truth and they had him under surveillance, and maybe Brian escaped just a few days or a day before they reported him missing, the 13th or whatever. Or that Brian could have been gone days before that. And that's valuable time here. That is very valuable time. Because if we're looking at a case where Brian was under surveillance and he somehow escaped from getting seen by running out of his backyard and ducking off somewhere, then Brian isn't far. My main theory has been that Brian went to Mexico. There's other theories out there that he's in the Appalachian Mountains. There's all types of theories out there, but if we could take the police word for it, if we could take the North Port's police word for it, then we would know that those theories aren't as plausible. And maybe, just maybe, anyone could put in a little more effort to help, because they would have a little more information as to know where they're looking for, where to begin. But instead we get these half-assed answers that we can't really work with, and we can't even hardly trust. So that's why a lot of people are interested in this case. That's why people are still digging and looking for answers. Because the answers we're getting, we can't even trust. But I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Do you think they had Brian under surveillance? Or do you think this is a lie? I'm interested in hearing your opinion about that down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go to the description of this video, subscribe to my other channel, and follow me on Twitter. And as always, find some time out of your day to go watch a movie.